now tend to see, because the UX will give us like a guide in what we are going to design, like giving us a project scope, trying to flesh out the features to include the tasks that users can complete in our application. Like all of those things is what UX gives us. And then UI is now trying to implement all those things that we found out. Then we also mentioned some key elements in UI design, and they include spacing, layouts, typography, colors, and buttons. All these things work together and they're in harmony to give a better UI design. And spacing is very important because when you design an application that does not have white space, we call it white space in design. When there's no enough white space, you notice that everywhere just look clustered, and then people will not even tend to understand where to place their eye first and when to place their eyes next. So layout tool is also based on the device that different users tend to open your application. Some users might use their mobile phones to open, for example, WhatsApp, and some users can use their desktop to open WhatsApp. So whichever device that any user uses to open your application, it shouldn't change the user experience. It shouldn't change, they shouldn't start having difficulties in where to locate some items that they found initially. So the next is typography. It's very important one. Whatever fonts that we decide to use, it should be very readable to anybody. So most of the times we use Inter. So it's really very important to use fonts that are very readable. Same thing goes with colors. The main importance of colors is to add some kind of life to your designs. And then whatever color we tend to pick at the end of the day, it should be color that is welcoming and then it serves its purpose at that particular time. So buttons are also used for call to actions. So when a user comes to your application, they want to perform some actions or perform some or carry out some tasks. And most of the times, for that call to actions, you need to use buttons to represent them. And users should not find it difficult to actually locate the button that they need to perform a particular task. Um, okay, I think I will just, that is all for, these are the key things we discussed for the last class. So for today, you can start recording. Okay. So for today, we are going to talk about the core principles of UI design. And I'm going to be giving some examples on UI design. Are you guys still with me?
Yes. Yes.
All right. So still on UI design. So UI design is about what people see, and most of the times we want to create an interface or want to create an application that whenever people see, they just say, wow, who designed this? Like it's very simple and it's very appealing to the eyes. The use of color will just be amazing. And then for you to actually achieve a very good UI designs, there are some laid down principles that you have to follow. And most of the times, even if you have this principle, it's very important as a beginner, you know what these principles are, so that as you advance in your career while you're designing, you can still fall back to these principles. And then even if you want to deviate from them, it's still going to be in line with the foundational principles that UI design contains. We are going to go through the few core ones. There are lots of principles in UI design. If we want to go through everything, we might not finish it this night. So we're just going to go through the very core ones that you need to hold on to while you actually start designing either your website or your mobile applications or your web applications, whatever you want to design, you need to actually just follow these principles. And then along the line, you can get acquainted with other principles. So, what are UI principles? The UI principles are just rules that can help designers to create user-friendly interfaces. You know, the difference between graphic design and UI design, graphics is somehow related to UI design, but the difference is that the UI design is just focused on user. So whatever you're trying to design, at the back of your mind, you have the user in like you have the user like in your mind. So if, for example, you are trying to place a button here, or you're trying to create a text, just an ordinary text, what your primary goal is that will this user find it very easy to locate this text, or will they get confused when they just come to an application or they come to a web page and then they're trying to focus on what to do, or they're finding it difficult to actually even see the things that they want to perform or the tasks that they want to do in your application. So these UI principles help designers to be able to create interfaces that are really easy to use by different people all over the world. There's no restrictions. You can't just be designing for people that are just in Nigeria. You have to design for people that are even in Europe, in everywhere in the world. And these people could also include people that are visually impaired, or people who have color blindness, or people who don't have hands, or all of those things. These are the things you always have to put in mind while you're designing for any application. And the UI principles also ensure that the design that you are doing is actually very clear and looks good. Like most of the times you just tend to, want to just design an application and then we'll just be drawing boxes or circles and throwing in colors, and all of those things. But then the UI principles will now help to guide you to make sure that whatever you're creating is very clear and it looks good in the eye. So why they matter? They matter because it helps users to navigate the interface without confusion. Most of the times, I don't know if in your UX, during your UX process, your user experience process, you went through information uh, architecture. So those like when you are trying to understand your users, like you've done your user experience, you've conducted some interviews, you sent out some questionnaires to your targeted users, you've done the whole questioning, trying to understand their pain points. And then when you're done with that phase, you come back to your drawing board with all those answers that you've gotten. And then you try to map all those answers and group them into common answers. Okay, let me use, I don't know why I like using WhatsApp as an example. So say for example, you set up a questionnaire about WhatsApp, and then you ask people why don't they like WhatsApp, and then some people will say they don't like WhatsApp because it does not allow us to delete our messages without the prompts. And some will say you don't like WhatsApp because you cannot view screenshot people's profile picture while you're on iPhone. So when you are done with collecting different people's answers, you now tend to group your answers into different categories. You can say category one, these are people that are talking about um, deleting and not being able to delete messages without any prompts. The category two are people that talk about profile picture. So your category one can be about messages. Your category two can be about profile picture. So when you tend to get those different categories, you now provide solutions, like your proposed solutions to each of those problem categories. So your problem one is about messages, and your problem two is about profile picture. So you now tend to provide the different solutions that will solve those different categories of your problems. And when you are done now providing the solution, that is where UX now ends. Then to start designing that your solution that you've proposed, UI starts. So for you to be able to design a particular application, you must be addressing a problem. You can't just start designing application without actually addressing a problem. And then while you are trying to address a particular problem with your intended solution, you have to, you know, create um some kind of steps. Okay, you want the user, once they log into this place, they should be able to do this. After this, they should be able to do this. So a way of um trying to create a flow chart of the user's journey through your application, through your mobile application, is a way of making it very easy for users to be able to navigate through your interface without confusion. So when you are trying to solve a problem, you should be able to know the steps that users should be able to take to meet that particular task. So say you found the solution that you want users to be able to delete their message without a prompt, and you say that you want to solve that problem. You can say, first of all, once they log in, they can delete, and they delete, they do this. So however the journey you want them to go through, your user interface should be able to go through that journey, so that whenever that user wants to come to your application, they don't have to be confused when they're actually trying to perform that task. So this principle help to govern us, so that as users are trying to navigate through your interface while performing a particular task, they are not confused on where to click and where not to click. Your buttons and your colors should help to guide them, that once they see a button, they should know that this is where I'm supposed to click, because it appears as a button. Your button should not be confused as a text, or like it should not be inactive, that people are now confused. Should I click here, or should I not click here? Or you can have an element that is not a button, and then you designed it to be like a button. People are now confused of it is a button or not. All those all those minor mistakes that we designers will make while designing application, it tends to put some confusion in our users. And this principle also help whatever experience that you are trying to make to be enjoyable and efficient for our users. So, you know, it's very important to note that for every task that a user wants to perform in your application, you should be able to design in such a way that they don't have to click so much. Say, I just want to delete my profile picture. I don't have to make like 5 clicks or 10 clicks just to delete my profile picture. You should be able to design an interface where just 2 clicks or 3 clicks can be able to help them achieve a particular task. Sometimes where we are signed into a newsletter and then we want to unsubscribe. Sometimes it's really very difficult to unsubscribe to a newsletter, or to even sign out from an annual subscription that we've done before. Like all those vigorous ways of clicking and clicking and clicking and clicking before you actually get to unsubscribe, or you actually get to um um come out from a subscription. It can be very annoying, and if you're not taking, you can just say, in fact, I don't even want to have anything to do with this company again. Like all of those, trying to reduce the amount of clicks for users is really very important, so that as they are going through your application, they have a very good experience and it's not annoying, it's very enjoyable. So that's one of the essence of the design principles. So one of the design principles we are talking about today is consistency. You know, um, like I've been giving an example of buttons like over and over again, because that's the one of the very prominent thing in design. So then when you are trying to, when you want to start a design, your design of your application, and then you've decided that I want to use a round button that is blue, like I want to use a blue round button in my application. Once you have started using that blue round button, you must continue with that blue round button throughout the application. You don't have to use blue round button here and then you go to your second interface and then you're using a green box button, and then your third interface you're now using a red blue button. It's going not like it's not going to be consistent all over your application, and that kind of thing can cause confusion for users. So whatever you have decided that you want to use, you have to be consistent all through your application, and not just even reducing the kind of confusion you give to users. It's even help to create some kind of uniformism throughout your design, so that when people are trying to engage with your application and then they are in screen one and then they go to screen two, they should not be confused that in screen one I actually saw a blue button as a primary call to action, and now I'm not seeing red. Am I supposed to click red, or is this meant to be something else? It's not going to create any form of uniformism throughout your design. And then, when people are using your products and then they've gone through the first phase, they've gotten themselves familiar with how you arrange your things. Maybe you have placed your your head title to be at the top, and then you place the button at the below. They've gotten themselves familiar with how you have arranged your interface. And then if you now go to the second interface and you misarrange your elements, you now place button at the above at on above instead of placing button at the bottom. It's not creating a pattern in your design. So if you've decided that you want to place your title on the top and your button on the left, that means that is the pattern you have to use throughout your design. You don't have to use button, you now carry button and come up and then you bring the text down. It's not going to help the users to be able to recognize patterns and know what they are supposed to do or what next that they tend to see. So I'm going to give you guys an example of a button. Like I was mentioning, you can see these different buttons on this first side here. You can see the top one is a blue button, the below one is purple, and the down one is white. So if you tend to design an application with these three buttons that are entirely different, you tend to confuse your users on the primary call to action. But then when you now design a button that is at this right hand side that is exactly the same throughout your application, you have make your users to know that, okay, once they see these buttons, it means that this is where I'm supposed to click to be able to do this particular thing or to be able to perform a particular task. So it makes the journey really very easy, and then it makes it that to be to be easily conversant with your designs, with the application. So the same thing goes with this particular one. Even though these two colors are almost the same, it still does not create any form of consistency throughout your application. So you have to be able to use the same style of button. You can see in this first one, the border radius is slightly different from this one by on the bottom. So whichever border radius you want to use have to be consistent all through the design. Gift, you want to say something? Gift. Okay. You can't see my screen. You guys can't see my screen.
We can. I guess it's our network.
Okay. You guys can see this Figma screen.
Yes.
Mhm. Okay. All right. So like I was saying, you can see like this border radius by the top is totally different from the one below. So you can see it's not following any form of consistency at all based on the design, based on the styling. There's no consistency. So I'm just using buttons as an example. There are lots of things that, say for example, you say that you want to use Inter. Inter is a font. Say you want to use Inter in your application. And then once you use Inter, this is Inter. Once you use Inter as a login screen, maybe as your main heading in an interface one, you shouldn't come to interface two and then your main heading will now be another type of fonts altogether, like this one. So once you decide that you want to use Inter as your main heading, Inter is going to be your main heading throughout the application. You cannot come to interface one or screen one and then you are seeing Inter as a main heading, and then you go to another interface and you are seeing another type of font. It's not going to be appealing for people who are visiting your application. So that is also another example of creating consistency throughout your design. So I'm going to go to the second core principle. Okay. Before I go to the second core principle, why it's important to be consistent in your design is build familiarity, like I've mentioned, and then it makes the product easy to use. When people come to your interface the first time and they've gotten themselves familiar with, okay, this is how the interface is supposed to look. When they go to the second interface, they now, it's now become very easy because they've understood, okay, this is how it is. It's just like um using for example, using your TikTok, and then you are viewing the first screen on your TikTok, and you already know that if you want to send this particular TikTok to somebody else, this is where you're supposed to click. But when you now swipe up to the next video, and then you are trying to look for where you've understood that this is where you're supposed to click to share, and you can no longer find it there again, it becomes very confusing when you want to share a particular video. So it's important that wherever you've placed a button or you placed an element, it should be in that same position throughout your application. And the consistent use of colors, fonts, and buttons, it creates a very seamless experience for your user. So like I've mentioned, we have the styling and the positioning. It's very important to be, consistent in this this you know these two factors: how you style your call to actions, or how you style your buttons, and where you position them. So the next principle I have here is simplicity. Most of the times there are some interfaces that we might tend to see, and then you are just confused on how to even understand what is going on. It's really very confusing to even grasp what you are seeing, or what they're even trying to portray, or what you're supposed to do on this interface. As UI designers, you should be able to make your interface really very simple for as low as a novice or people who have not gone to a formal education. They should be able to they should be able to understand all your interface, and you don't have to start you know giving them a rigorous learning process to be able to go through the whole understanding how they're supposed to use your products, all of those things. And that is why most of the times when we are designing an application, we make reference to applications that that already have millions of users currently. So say for example tomorrow you want to design an application that um that provide financial services to people. But the fact that it's providing financial services to people, when you want to do your research on how to design that application, you don't have to only research on other financial um, um, you don't have to only do your research on other financial applications. You can also research based on applications that already have millions of users, like we have the likes of Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. So you are researching on these applications to understand the patterns that they use in these applications so that you can replicate those patterns in your own mobile application. And I'm not saying replicate like trying to copy and paste, but by the time you, as a designer, understand how these big giants in the industry are designing their application, you tend to make users to easily understand your application because they are already used to these big applications we have already in the world. And then when you are now trying to design something that's entirely different, it makes the interface not to be easily understandable for users all over the world. And it's also very important, and it's also very good to note that while you are designing, you limit the amount of call to actions on a single screen. So say for example, you have a, a login screen. Let me just use login for example. In your login screen, you're supposed to have a login button, and on that screen, you're not meant to have a purchase card also on that button on that interface. You're not supposed to have um, refer a friend also on that interface. A single interface should have limited call to actions because when they have limited call to actions, it makes it very simple and easily understandable for anybody. But then when they have like multiple call to actions, like they have on a particular interface, they have sign up, they have refer a friend, you have purchase card on only one interface, it makes it very confusing for people to actually perform any task in your application. And why is simplicity important? It reduces confusion and it makes users focus on what they are supposed to do. So like I make example of a login interface. In an interface where you have refer a friend and you also have login, users can be confused. Okay, what should I do on this page? Should I actually refer a friend first, or I should log in first, or I should buy card first? It can be really very confusing. But then when you just have a single call to actions, or you have call to actions that are still related to that login, like your login screen, you can have forget password or sign up. They are still related to that primary call to actions. It makes it not to be confusing for users when they actually want to log into the application. And most of the times when the interfaces are not easily understandable, it kind of makes your users to be overwhelmed, and it tends to increase dropouts from the application because when the user is trying to perform a task and they are not understanding what to do next or what not to do next, they become overwhelmed and they just leave your application, and it's very difficult for them to leave, so to come back once they have left. So this simplicity also creates a simple layout for your designs with clear buttons and clear layout. So it's very important that while you are designing, your focus should be: is it interface clear? Is it easily understandable to anybody? And will they even get confused when they visit my interface? So that is where you now try to make sure that whatever you are doing, whatever you are placing or your call to action should not be too much. So avoid confusion in your interface. So I don't know if I have a okay, let me just talk about this visual hierarchy. So um the next principle I have here is emphasis, also called visual hierarchy. Can you guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the next principle I have here is visual hierarchy.
Yes, we
It's
can.
also called emphasis. All right, thank you. The next principle I have here is visual hierarchy. It's also called emphasis. You know, like um, without the presence of visual hierarchy or design, the design would tend to be flat. And then people where you want the users to go to, you don't even tend to go to. So just imagine your call to actions not being a button like this, for example. The call to actions are not being a button, they're just being a text. It makes your design to just be flat. There is no color, there is no there's no guide in able to guide your users. You want your users to be able to see a particular part of your interface first before they can see the next part. So that is where visual hierarchy comes into play. The visual hierarchy is used to be able to guide users. So if you want your users to pass through a particular flow while they are doing while they are viewing viewing your application, you need to create some kind of emphasis on the elements that you want them to view first. So by elements, I mean elements in design can mean elements can be your text is an element, like your font, your button is an element, your icons too is an element, your pictures too is an element. So these are some examples of elements in your in a UI design. So if you want your users to be able to notice some elements more than the others, you have to create a visual hierarchy. You have to create some emphasis on those elements that you want them to notice first before they go to the next one. So there are different ways of making an element more um more pronounced than the others. So you can actually say for a text, for example, you have two body text, you have the header one and the header two, and you want the users to be able to read your header one before they go to header two. That means you have to create some emphasis on header one. And for you to be able to create that emphasis on header one, you can do that by either increasing the size of the font or making it bolder instead of just using um like a, instead of it to just be regular. You can make your header one to be bold. You can still add some colors to your header one so that when they come, they are more attracted to that header one before they can now go to header two. So that's the way of creating some emphasis on different elements. So you can also create some emphasis on your interface by even adding pictures or or some kind of illustrations. It makes them that once they come in, it's just like babies when you give them and give birth to babies, and the babies tend to be attracted to colorful items, like very bright colors of items like pink or yellow. you know if you put a baby here and then you put two items and you put one to be black and the other one to be yellow, notice that the baby will be very eager to pick that color that is more bright than the other one. So that is the same um, theory we are also using in our design. We tend to add more kind of importance to the elements that you want people to see first. And this also will help the users. So when you want the user to perform a task and then you want them to notice the call to action buttons, you have to emphasize on that call to actions button so that when they are viewing your application, they can see clearly. They don't have to look for it. That this is where I'm supposed to click on to perform this task. So that is where the visual hierarchy now comes to place. So why is it important to create the visual hierarchy? Apart from the fact that it helps to guide the users, it even gives more light to your design. So just imagine a design that don't have a color or don't have pictures or don't have illustrations. It just make your whole website and your whole application to be boring, and people will not really want to stay long in your application. You're just flat. There's no life in your design. That kind of stuff. So apart from the fact that it helps to guide users through your interface, it also, gives some kind of life to your design. And then it helps them to complete tasks faster. So by highlighting the key information in your design, so you have your header one and then you make it more pronounced. You are even helping the users to be able to recognize that, okay, this page is actually for this and not this. So by the time you make your header one to be very small and is not bold, it's just there, people will now trying to understand, okay, what is this page for? It's really very confusing, and then it just defeats the whole idea of trying to make your interface to be as easy and very simple as possible. So I will show you some examples of you can see this particular screen. Yeah. So um just imagine that this rights for all and this second subtitle, you can see that this rights for all it is bolder, and it even have a different color, like it is black. And then the second text that is below it, you can see that it's faint, and then it is like it's just like it is smaller. So for somebody that comes to a particular page first, yeah, for the first time, the person is going to be attracted first to this picture. And then when they want to read, they will tend to read this rights for all first before they now get to read this up to 3 stops with every tip perfect. So by creating some kind of emphasis on this rights for all, you are guiding the user. So you want the user to be able to read this first text before they can now read the second text. So that is where emphasis is coming into play. You are emphasizing on this first text over this one. And it's even important for you to even emphasize on your design, because it's creating some kind of a balance in your design, and it's making it very appealing to look at. So just imagine a interface that's like everything is just the same. There's no difference. The whole texts are just, there's no bold, there's no like everything is just the same. It's just the design is just going to be flat, and it's not going to be appealing to look at. Um, we also go to this other one. You can see on this first, once you come in this application for the first time, you notice that this first one, users will mostly kind to be attracted to this very first picture that you have here. And it's already trying to introduce what this page is about. And you can see all kind of payments made easy with GoPay. They will understand that, okay, this particular interface is for payment solutions. And they don't have to start confusing that, okay, is this an ordering app, or is this a food menu app, or is this, once you have emphasized on a particular information that you want to give to them, it's become very easy for them to be able to go through the application. And if you also notice, I spoke about consistency as the first principle I mentioned. So you can see that on this category side, you can see this ride, then you can see this icon and car, you can see this icon and food. you notice that they are following the same patterns. You are not seeing this icon and red, and next time you are saying car first before you now see the car icon. Notice that the icon always come before the text. That is a pattern that this particular interface is using. And as I've chosen this pattern, it's going to be the same pattern throughout the application. So that the user who is conversant that, okay, for this particular one, this is how it's supposed to be. They cannot come here and now say, then they're now saying car first before the icon. It's really very confusing. It will become very confusing for users to be able to understand your application. That is an example of what I mean by consistency and following a particular pattern. Then this one below here too, you can see 1000 XP to your next treasure. This first um the first clickable site is a particular layout that it has used. You can see below it's also using the same layout. If there's anyone again below, it's going to use the same layout. So that means once you've concluded that, okay, for my card design, I want my icons to appear here first, and then I want the text to be second, and then I want the next arrow button to be next. You cannot come down and then you put your text first and you put your icon second, and then you now place your arrow at the other side. You're not following a particular pattern. So there are different patterns that can exist only in one interface. And if you are following just a designated pattern for a particular type of information, it helps the user to easily understand your application, and then it doesn't become very confusing for them. Where should we download from? What are you asking? What do you want to download? Um, can you? Where should we download from? Okay, so I think it's still the same. So these three principles that I've listed, just like they are consistency, simplicity, and visual hierarchy. So it's really very important to be able use use these three principles properly, because it's going to create an interface that is going to be usable for users. So the consistency can be following the same pattern, and then making sure that it's easy to use and you are emphasizing on the correct information, on the correct or the correct element that needs to be emphasized on. You don't have to emphasize on the wrong element. It's also going to make it very confusing. So I'm also going to show you guys another example of using a particular pattern. So you can see this screen now. You can see that, notice that everything concerning others, here is others. Everything concerning others is following a particular pattern. You can see this first card design is the same layout they are using in this second design. Does somebody want to say something? I'm not seeing anybody.
Please, ma, I can't see the screen.
Are you the only one that can't see the screen? Is anybody seeing my screen?
It's a
I can see your
network.
screen.
Okay, please, you can just change your network or maybe change your position, or you can either log out and log in so that you can be able to see my screen. So, like I was saying, like this particular screen is showing the same pattern that I've already mentioned. You can see that even if this first order is showing a different type of an information, you can see scrambled eggs with toast, and then you are seeing classic cheeseburger, then you are seeing vegetarian pad thai, is showing different information, but they are still within the same pattern. This first order is following the same pattern with the second order, is following the same pattern with the third order. Is you are creating some kind of consistency all through your design. I can notice that even in this one, their primary call to actions is pay bills, and then you are seeing see details. You cannot come here and then they are now interchanging the styling. Maybe this pay bills is now looking like a secondary button, and then the see details is now looking like a primary button. You can see that throughout this card, the primary buttons remain a yellow round button. It is not changing style at any point in the design. And that is what you actually need to very take notice of while you are designing. So creating this consistent uh, designing applications that are really consistent makes it very easy for users to understand your application, and they can easily grasp what you are trying to tell them without any confusion. And then you don't have to, maybe you are designing for an application and designing for and for you're the only designer in where you're working, and then you now tend to have so many customer calls trying to call your customer care to explain what they're supposed to do in your application. You should be able to reduce the amount of the customer care support with your design. So it's really very important for you to notice that these are the minor things and the very key thing you need to take care of. Like you need to take note of while you are designing. So based on the visual hierarchy, I know I showed a similar design in our last class. You can see this particular design, for example. So this is a design of a dashboard. And you can see that whoever comes here first, they are confused on even where to look at the first time that they are coming to this application. They are confused on whether to look at this project side first, or look at this income side first, or look at this side first. Everything is just begging for importance at the same time, and it can become very confusing. So in as much as you are trying to throw in colors into your design, you need to do that properly, not just throw in colors in every element you have in your design. You need to put colors only at the important sides of your design so that you can properly guide your users. Because for somebody that just comes to this application and they know they're looking for what to click first, and say for example, this bar chart you have here, this circle here, is looking like this is their primary color, and they are trying to click on it and it's not clicking. It becomes very confusing because you are using your primary color on an element, but that element is not a call to action button. So people who is now mistaking where you placed your primary color as a call to action become very confused on what to do next and what not to do next. So you can now see that even the call to action that is at this left panel here on this analytics side is not even as pronounced as these other ones that we are seeing here. So you're not even helping to guide the user's eye. You want to be able to guide them that they are presently on this tab, and when they go to the next tab, it should be very pronounced that they are also on this widget tab. You know, is you are giving emphasis on where you are not supposed to give emphasis on, and it can be very confusing. Trust me. You can even notice that on this side is showing pages, eight pages. You know, these 8 pages is very important information, but because you have not used your colors properly, you are even hiding the key information that is supposed to be pronounced. So in as much as you want to throw in colors, you need to throw in colors to the key information that you want to pronounce. Don't throw it and just be using that every single thing that you just see, adding colors. It becomes very, very confusing. So on this next screen too, you can see that this screen, the colors were used, but then they were used properly. You can see on this left side yeah, it is very obvious. Like you cannot even confuse yourself that you are currently on the dashboard, because yeah, it's very pronounced that you are on the dashboard. Somebody that comes, they don't be confused that, okay, am I on the dashboard screen, or I'm on the project screen, or I'm on the transaction screen. It's very pronounced. It's just visible that this is the dashboard screen. And you can see that, the training of colors here is done properly, and then it's not all over your face that you are finding it very difficult to be able to grasp, the layouts and what to read first. So also on this page, then I want to say something.
Sorry, I wanted to ask, is it the work of the UI designer to also design the dashboard? I thought that was the work of the developer.
I think I have a question.
I thought UI designers don't work on dashboard, just the developers.
Oh, really? Developers, that was maybe like centuries ago or long time ago, that UI design was not really integrated into the software development phase, and then you have developers just going straight into building out applications like this. But currently, right now, UI designers don't only work on mobile applications, they also work on websites or web applications. And these web applications can also include dashboard. Like you have to be able to design the whole experience in any application. Whether whether you are trying to push out a say this particular one, this looks like a financial admin. You are trying to push out a financial admin. The designer is supposed to design how it's going to look and how it's going to feel throughout that financial admin. So currently, designers have to design anything that has to do with application, either web application or mobile application. You are supposed to actually design how it's going to look. Did I answer your question? Um, what's that name? Did I answer your question? Who just spoke now? Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
So I was also trying to I was also trying to make emphasis on, the 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 the, the visual hierarchy that I spoke about earlier. So you can see on this dashboard, you can see that we are trying to create more emphasis on this number, this number here, this 9,801, than this completed project. So it's just trying to lead the user that, okay, you have to read this number, then before you can read this, and then you can now come down to read this. So it's just, if we have a design that these three texts are just together, they have the same styling, they have the same size, it's going to be very difficult for users to be able to understand what you are trying to say here. But with this, you understood easily, like even at first glance, that this 9,801 is the key information here, and then this text is below it is still describing what this key information is. So the same thing with this chart that we have here. This chart is trying to lead the user's eye to come here first, and then tell them that, okay, this is a chart that is for the revenue for this year. If you are trying to explain this same information using texts, for example, is not going to be easily understandable. But then using charts or using pictures, we will relate to information very easily for any users, even at first glance. So I think that is about this particular interface. So, like I said um, earlier on, there are we are we are we are already in use of millions of different applications that are still following these three principles. Like we have the WhatsApp, we have our TikTok, we have Instagram. If you look closely on all these applications, you notice that these applications are following the consistency principle, and they are following the visual hierarchy principle, and they are also following the simplicity principle. So it's not far-fetched from our hands. So don't think like these principles are just, they are so big and they are so vague that it's not, it's going to be very difficult for us to use them. It's just already in our everyday applications. And then when you want to design an application, you can now bring in these principles in our application to make it really very simple for our users. So the main goal of all these principles for consistency is just ensure users to know what to expect next. So you can see on the example I gave on the order menu, they already know that the next element, the next thing that we are seeing on this that have this same kind of pattern is also information concerning an order. For you to be able to design two parts that have the same elements, that have the same pattern, that is following the same consistency, it's just letting them to know that, okay, anything that appears like this is for order. Anything that appear like this is for call to actions. Anything that appear like this is for a text. Following that same consistency will just allow users to know what to expect next. And the simplicity helps the interface to be clean. Like once you are tend to disarrange things and you tend to use different things. Say for example, you are using a blue button and the next interface you are using a red button. It's not making your interface to be clean, and it's not going to be it is going to look like an amateur design. You're not going to look like a professional. It's very important to follow the simplicity principle so that you can make your interface clean and easy to use. And then also for the visual hierarchy, the main goal is to create emphasis on the important elements you have in your interface. So while you are creating some kind of importance to these elements, you have to be very, very careful on the elements you need to create importance on and the ones that you need to allow them to be on the ground. Like everybody cannot take the light at the same time. It has to follow a particular step-by-step hierarchy so that it is not confusing for people. Goodness, you want to say something? So with this, I think we have come to the end of today's class about the core principles that we have in design. Is there anybody here that at any point at all you got confused about a particular principle, or you have questions to ask? Please feel free to, ask anything you want to say anything you want to. Are there any questions? Do you guys have any questions? Was there any confusion at any point? So you guys fully understood everything that was said this night. That's really amazing. You guys are really smart. Okay. Well understood. Yeah, I
Hello?
can hear you.
Hello. I just want to ask because the principle of consistency and is it the same thing as repetition? Because
Yeah.
I've seen that somewhere else before.
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, hello, Stephen.
Yeah, good evening.
Sorry, based on your icons, you talked about simplicity, but there was a page where you showed us your icon, home and some other things, but the home was thick and others were outline stroke.
This one.
No, not this one. No, the main app, Go Trek or something like that. Yeah, yeah, where that Hello Nikki is. Yeah, the home was bold, like colored, while the rest were outer stroke. Does it matter? I thought maybe the stroke will change color even if that's where it's active.
The stroke will change color. What stroke?
Like the home is thick, while
Yeah.
other icons such as profile, messages, and their
Yeah.
outline distant
Mhm.
icons.
Okay. That's a really good observation. But like I said, the visual hierarchy. You can notice that they are trying to create emphasis on this home so that it will be very obvious for you that you are currently on this home interface. So user does not have to confuse, am I on this other side or I'm on the home? So you can see that the rest of these icons here, they are following the same color and they are following the same outline styling. But this home is the only thing that is different and it is having a different kind of importance than this other one. The same rule that they are using here on this same interface. They're trying to make sure that to let you know that you are currently on this dashboard. And you can see that even though all these ones they are the same, dashboard, project, transaction, my team, they are all the same, but as they are on this dashboard, you can see that this dashboard is bold and there is a blue button around the dashboard to make it very obvious that this is an active page that you are currently on. That's the same thing they are trying to do on this home side. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
Right. Are there any other questions? Or we can call it Amarachi Victoria.
Uh, Thank you, ma, for your lessons. Please, are we getting the slides?
Okay, I'll share the slides to your class captain.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions? Okay, so I think with the presence of no other questions, we are done for today's classes. Is there any other person that is having difficulty downloading an application? I've just been on this Figma downloading because I want each and every one of us to be able to have this Figma installed on their laptop. Or if you want to use the web version, no problem. Is there anybody that is having any difficulty downloading the Figma? So we can go through it together before we end the class.
Yes, me too. I'm having that difficulty.
So what's the difficulty?
It will download and get to some certain points, and it will just cancel by itself.
What laptop are you using?
I'm using HP.
Are you joining in with your laptop currently?
Yes.
Do you mind sharing your screen?
Alright. I don't want to show me.
Sure.
Alright.
I can see your screen. You are using Windows, right?
Yes.
If you click on this desktop for Windows, let's see. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you? Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear
click
you.
desktop app for Windows.
I've clicked on it.
Is it downloaded? I'm not seeing any downloading. Is it currently downloading?
Let me see. It's not downloading. Well, yesterday it downloaded and got to some points. Not even half of the MB, it just got.
Are you sure it's on network?
No, it's not network. I have. It's not network.
But it's not even showing that it's downloading to your system. Oh, yes, click on it. Go to your downloads. Let's see.
It's loading.
Okay, it's loading.
Yes.
Go to your downloads.
Okay, it has started downloading again.
Let me see your downloads. I'm not seeing your downloads. It's not. I'm not seeing that it's downloading. Can you show me your downloads?
Okay.
If the network is bad and you have a quiz, so you can type it on the. You stop sharing.
No, I'm still here.
The person's electronic.
Can you see it now?
No, I'm saying Google, your Google this thing. I'm saying your Google page. Yeah, I can see it now. Go to your
Okay.
downloads. Let's see. Click on your downloads. Digit, I got your question. I'm going to answer it in a minute.
You said?
No, I'm talking to Judith.
Okay.
Click on your downloads. Okay, it's Figma setup. So, was it that canceled the first one?
No, it's cancelled by itself.
Oh, are you sure you have enough space in your laptop?
Yeah, I have space. This one now that is downloading again is even downloading faster than the first one.
Okay, just leave it. Let's see.
Okay.
Just leave it. Let's see. Let us just wait. Esther, you want to ask a
Yes,
question?
ma'am. Yes, I just downloaded mine, but I can't install it. It told me that installation was blocked. I don't know.
But like, did it? He continued. Like the download was completed.
Yes, the download was completed. I have to click open, but it kept saying the installation is blocked.
Okay. All right. Just give me a minute when we are done with this. We share your screen.
This is the website and lots of pictures, memories, and all that. So how can we do something that looks like this?
You can mute your mic, please. So
I
when
how
it's installing.
this student section looks like on the mobile site. I
You have to wait for your own to finish installing. Okay, for this question, I'll have to share my screen. So you have to also wait. Maybe we can come back to this on. Who just spoke now? Can you share your screen? Let's see what.
I'm trying to do that, but my network is bad.
Okay.
It's raining
When you're
heavily
trying,
here,
let me
so I think it's affected.
just let me know when you're able to share your screen. Let me answer Judith's question about in the illustration you showed us on consistency, the one with buttons. Yeah, buttons 1, 2, 3, all having the same color. Does this mean that all your buttons should have the same color? In the interface, it shows us the sign-in button has a different color from the button beside it. All right, can you guys see my screen? So I think this is what we're talking about. The button 1, 2, 3, they have the same color. Yes, this is the primary call to actions, and they have the same color and the styling. So it means that throughout the application, all your primary call to actions should look like this. So for this other one, you can see that there are two buttons here. Yes, that different styling, but it's showing that this one that is signing is a primary call to action. That's a primary button. And this one, you cannot see my screen. Maybe it's a network. And this other one is a secondary button. And a primary button and secondary button cannot have the same styling. You have to create more emphasis on the primary button than the secondary button. Because like I said, you want the user's eye to be able to go to the one with higher importance than the other. You can see on this particular one, the primary button here is pay bills, and it's having the same styling with here, pay bills. And the secondary button is see details. So you cannot come here and have the same styling for pay bills and have the same styling for see details. And this see details will also be yellow. It's going to be confusing because people will confuse on what is the primary color and what is the secondary color. So you have to make more emphasis on the primary button than the secondary button. Do you understand? Okay, I get it now. All right. Yeah, you're welcome. Was it Peace that was sharing her system? Who was sharing her screen? I didn't finish downloading before.
No, it's
It
still
was
downloading.
peace.
Oh, it's still downloading.
Yes.
Thank you so much. So the second person, You mentioned something about is blocking. Can you share your screen now?
I'm using another
Can you
device. My network keep logging me out, so I can't do it. It
oh,
keeps saying network function.
okay. I really don't know how we're going to solve um this installation of Figma for everyone. But if it's so bad that you cannot install, you can just be using the web application, the website for now until like after every class, I will try to dedicate some time to people that is having some issue in downloading the Figma so that everybody here can be able to download this. Then please, what's the update now? Thank you. Please, are you done downloading?
Not yet. Almost there.
All right, but
We still have 6 minutes, 7 minutes left.
1 minute. Can we wait? Anyway, before the class, we actually went through someone that downloaded her own. So maybe you people can also go through that process and see if it will work for you in your system. Hopefully it does. Then how did she do with the download? Okay, once just that I already have my system that my Figma downloaded in my system. I'll have gone
Sorry,
through
I
it
think
in
I
my
can
system.
show my download now. I can show my screen now.
Okay, please do.
Sorry, ma, can you see my screen now?
Yes.
All right, so this is my download. Uh, show all download.
Okay, this Figma setup is that it's the Figma setup XE.
Yes, 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 yes.
So click on the Figma,
Okay,
double click.
yeah, I've done that.
It's not opening. Selection has
I
failed.
see. Can you see my screen? So it's
Yes, I can
showing
see.
installation has failed.
Okay. Cancel it first. Click on close. Let's see. Click on that icon.
This one.
Yeah, just yes. If I click on it. If I click on it again.
There was an error while installing the app. Check the
Click on the
setup.
open setup log. Let's see. And you are using Windows, right? And
Yes,
you installed for Windows.
I downloaded for Windows.
Mm. Don't know why this. Maybe you can try to download again. You have to delete this one. You have to delete this particular download and then re-download it again.
I should download it again.
But delete this particular one first.
Okay.
Then just make sure that you are actually downloading for Windows and not Mac.
Mm.
Okay. Peace. What's the update? Is it done downloading?
He's saying 50 seconds left.
Mm. Okay. We're almost 8:30. You can finish up before 8:30. While we're waiting for this one, there are no other questions from any of us, right? My network. Maybe sometimes this whole downloading thing can also be network. Maybe we could try downloading in the night, or I don't know. Or you can try using a more stable network so that our download can be completed.
Hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Sorry, ma'am. My network took me off for about 20 something minutes. I don't know what we are downloading, please. May I know what we are downloading? I just got in now.
Okay, we are trying to download the Figma tool. So Figma is what we're going to be using to design the class.
Okay. The next class, that is tomorrow's class.
What happens?
No, I wanted to get what you said. He said Figma is what we are going to
During
use
the
in the
course of
next.
this, during the course of this cohort, throughout this, like the rest of the class, we are going to be using Figma.
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. No problem. Thank you.
Yeah. Mm. Shema, yours have worked. Okay, that's good. Please, what's the update? Chinwe, please, so that if there's no updates, we can end the class. Who Tony raise up her hand. Please, you can unmute and speak.
When I asked during our last class, you said you are going to introduce us to Adobe XD. Are you still going to do that?
Yes, in our next class. I'm going to do it, yes. It seems like Adobe XD more than Figma.
Yes, I'm already familiar with Figma, so I'm like, I just want to enter Adobe XD.
Oh, okay. That's good. Um, who is sharing screen? Please, okay. So it's done downloading, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see. It's cancelled. Did you cancel it?
No, he's installing.
Okay.
If you are hearing, let's talk.
It's installing.
Installation has failed.
Okay, I think
There
what you
was an
can do
error.
is delete all the whole Figma you have already presently in your system. Like whether it's one or two or three, delete everything and install a fresh one.
Okay.
Let's try that later on, and we'll see if you still have the problem by tomorrow in our tomorrow's class.
No.
All right, so I think we can end this today's class. We are done. So see you guys again tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you. Good night, ma'am.
Nice.
Good night.
Thank you, ma. Good night, ma.
Good night. Good night, everyone.
Before Figma downloaded now.
I think it's 7 now. So speaking from the I would say that I think I'm not creatives. This is because here.
Okay, Opera Helen, you're raising your hands. Okay.
Sorry,
That was
ma.
question.
She has attended to my question. Please, are we doing any other thing? Can we log out?